So in this video, we are going to go through the collateral register document that the sales consultant ultimately fills in. And all this document, the main function of this document is that all the collateral that has been, that will be used for the specific loan are basically added here. And we're going to go through a deep dive of what every page ultimately means. On the first page of the collateral register, you'll clearly see the loan amount that is being applied for. You can obviously change this if it has changed in the last few days and so forth, and you want to be a little bit flexible. You will see the gap. That means the difference between the collateral that was recorded on this collateral register compared to the loan amount. It will give you a gap. And here you can see the loan amount is 1.5 million and the collateral that's been captured is more than that. What you'll also see on the first page is that if this is an existing client, you will see the client's name, the basic name and details here, just as a summary. And this existing client, if they've got current collateral already recorded on the system against the existing loan, you'll see this information as well. The information might be a little bit outdated, but at least if there's something on the record, it will show it. And it will also show you if there's existing active loans against this specific client. And ultimately, the loan that is part of this specific transaction will also be listed here, or at least all the loan purposes will be listed here as well. So pretty much what the first page does is just give you a good summary of everything that was done so far. So what you will see in the collateral register is that there is very specific tabs here that will clearly show you the different types of assets that can be recorded on the collateral register. You will have your farm assets, that's typically farming property, your urban assets, that's town property, and so forth. If there's any investments, there will be a tab for that, and then other assets. So these will pretty much be all the asset classes that you can record on the collateral register. And finally, you will have your submit button. Now I'm going to use just one example in the collateral register by registering one asset. I can show an example for urban assets as well, investment assets and so forth. But I'm just going to use farm assets in this tutorial because the breakdown of the assets in all of these pages are exactly the same. So I'm just going to show the principle basically here. So you can, under your farm property, add multiple farm assets. This is just one that I've created, but you can go and create more than one, and all you have to do is simply go and add security to add another collateral property, a farming property under this page. Alright, so the very first thing that we are going to focus on is who owns the collateral. Is it the client itself? Is it via suretyship, or is this an existing bond that just needs to be extended? So very simple. If it's the client and it's not an existing bond, you simply need to put in the client ID here. That will show you which client it is. Now if it's individual, it's always one, but otherwise the easiest way to go and look for it is just to go to the collateral summary page, and there you will see your client, and maybe you will have a client with a spouse, and the spouse might be client ID number 2. So depending on who it is in your list here, it might be more than one person. Just select a client against who that is the property owner basically of the asset. That client ID is the one that you're going to use. So if you go back, so very first thing, if the client is selected as being the owner, you just simply put in the client ID. Now if it is surety ship, you click the surety ship button, and what you will see is that the property owner details basically opens up here that you need to ultimately fill in, because this is ultimately your property owner. Now if it is just this collateral is put up on an existing bond, then you select that, and all you need to do is just on SAP you will have the collateral object ID. It's just to basically put it in here. You'll sometimes see, if you go to the main page and you'll have your list of collaterals here, you'll see the collateral object ID here as well. But if you don't see it here, just go on SAP, and for that existing collateral that has been captured, we just want the SAP collateral object ID in here, that we know what that existing bond's number is. Another thing that's interesting is that you'll see that in this collateral register, there might be quite a few collateral objects that you actually add. Each of them will have a unique number, which will be called the collateral ID. Now this, under farms, you will specifically have these unique IDs that will be used. Under town properties, it will also look a little bit different. But there's a unique collateral ID for every one of the assets in the collateral register, which is important if you want to go back and you want to refer to a very specific collateral object. Now what's also important is, besides the owner that has been defined, you also have the collateral detail itself of the farm. So you'll typically have your detail here of the farm and so forth that needs to be filled in. This is very important because this information is used to by the evaluation office to go and do the valuations. And if you do not put in the full details of whether it's a farm, whether it is a townhouse, town property and so forth, and you do not put in even the street number and so forth, then it makes it very difficult for evaluations to go and do this piece of work. So please make sure that it is filled in properly. What you will also see is that besides the basic collateral details, you upload here your title deed of the farm, and if there's any other farming property documentation. Now you will see exactly the same if you go to urban assets, that when the urban asset details are put in, here is critical street name, street number and town that needs to be put in, the title deed and so forth. But here when it comes to the town properties, the building plans and any other related documents can be uploaded here as well. You'll sometimes see, if you go to the main page and you'll have your list of collaterals here, you'll see the collateral object ID here as well. But if you don't see it here, just go on SAP, and for that existing collateral that has been captured, we just want the SAP collateral object ID in here, that we know what that existing bond's number is. Another thing that's interesting is that you'll see that in this collateral register, there might be quite a few collateral objects that you actually add. Each of them will have a unique number, which will be called the collateral ID. Now this, under farms, you will specifically have these unique IDs that will be used. Under town properties, it will also look a little bit different. But there's a unique collateral ID for every one of the assets in the collateral register, which is important if you want to go back and you want to refer to a very specific collateral object. Now what's also important is, besides the owner that has been defined, you also have the collateral detail itself of the farm. So you'll typically have your detail here of the farm and so forth that needs to be filled in. This is very important because this information is used to by the evaluation office to go and do the valuations. And if you do not put in the full details of whether it's a farm, whether it is a townhouse, town property and so forth, and you do not put in even the street number and so forth, then it makes it very difficult for valuations to go and do this piece of work. So please make sure that it is filled in properly. What you will also see is that besides the basic collateral details, you upload here your title deed of the farm, and if there's any other farming property documentation. Now you will see exactly the same if you go to urban assets, that when the urban asset details are put in, here it's critical street name, street number and town that needs to be put in, the title deed and so forth. But here when it comes to the town properties, the building plans and any other related documents can be uploaded here as well. So let's just continue with this one. So title deed has been uploaded, any other farming property documentation that might be needed by valuations is uploaded as well. And then you've got the basic, if you already know, or the farmer already know and got the idea what the market value is, you can go and put it in here so long. This value of yours will not be used. Ultimately, the final valuation numbers from valuations will be used, but this gives everyone just an idea of what the farmer had in mind already for his valuation. And again, 70% rate, you can see then the collateral value is calculated. Again, it's shown only for information's sake, and this is not the numbers that will ultimately be used. Now the final component to understand around this piece of collateral is that if there's a registered bond against this collateral, you click the registered bond button here, and then you need to fill in the financial institution against which the bond is held, the details there. Plus, ultimately from that bank you need to have a letter of consent to be a second bondholder or so forth against the property, and that you basically upload here as well. So that is if there's a registered bond against this collateral. Now the final component that you look at when you complete this collateral component is if a valuation is required. You simply click the valuation button here, and what you will see is that all the data that you've put in is now read only. And once you've clicked the valuation required, there's additional information that pops up. This is not for you to complete. This is the information that the valuation officer will ultimately complete, and the senior valuation officer will also sign off on this. And the formal valuation document will be uploaded here as well. Now, this happens a little bit later in the process, but just that you know that if a property needs to be evaluated, that you click the valuation required. If you do not do that, there will not be a valuation request that will be automatically sent to the valuation office. Alright, so that in short is basically what one collateral object looks like. You go to the final page, and in this final page you'll see a summary of all the collateral that's been captured. You will see that there's under other assets 500,000, and under farm collateral 1.3 million, so there's a total collateral of 1.85. So this is basically just a summary. What you also see, there's a place for these assets where you can upload the client's insurance cover, a copy of that, that shows that they are covered for these assets. And finally, if you know that you have got 3 or 4 loan purposes, and then you can go and select which one of the collaterals that you've put in, which one of them needs to be linked to which loan number. Now, how do you know these numbers? Very simple. The loan numbers is all the loan purposes you've put into your loan calculator, and you can see it on the summary page. If you go in front here and you go to new loans, you will see there how many loan purposes has been done, and if there's a specific one of them that needs to be tied to a specific type of collateral. That's pretty much all you do here, is you just link them together. You take the three collaterals here, for example, and you link it to the three loan purposes that you might have drawn up. This is just to make it easier for us to link the different collateral objects to the different loan purposes that is part of this. Now, once that is done, all you do is literally go and sign the document. Your branch manager will sign it later, so the sales consultant can sign now, and at a later stage the branch manager will also review this and also sign it off. But now all your information is read-only, and the only parts that can be changed is the parts that's updated by the valuation officers when they get this document. So at a later stage, the valuation officers will do their updates. They will open up this document of yours. They'll do their updates as well. And once they're done, everything is in one document called the Collateral Register. That's the detail of all the assets, plus all the necessary documentation, as well as the valuations that was done for those different collateral objects. And that, in short, is what you do to complete a collateral register. Now, what is very important here is that if you're busy working on your collateral register, once you're done doing your work, simply go to the final page and go and press submit, so that your data is saved, and you keep your task open until you're completely done in a day or 2 or 3 with your collateral register. So every time just go and submit. Only when you are completed with everything and everything is finally done in the document, then only do you sign it. So you keep it open, and every time you submit it, and it's only when you are done with everything then you can go and finally sign it, because what will then happen is the system will pick up you've just signed it, so you must be complete with the collateral register, and the system will go and look for all the different collateral or the valuation ticks that was made in the document, and there will be a valuation request generated for every one of those ticks. And then you know that the valuation guys can continue with their work. So that, in short, is the collateral register.